Apologies if you hear a background noise. It is very hot and I need my fan on to survive. So it's on. Hey guys, welcome back to the MCU HQ, and this is my review for episode 2 of Secret Invasion titled Promises. As usual, I will start off non-spoiler, let you know when we're getting into spoilers, so if you've not seen the episode, you have time to watch the episode and then come back and finish watching my review. So let's hop into it, because my camera's telling me my battery's almost dead, so let's see how far through this I can get. So this episode primarily focused on the political fallout from the Moscow explosion at the end of the first episode. You have all the world leaders kind of at each other's throats, different countries blaming each other for different things. Nick Fury is now the most famous man on the planet because, of course, he was there, and all the world leaders kind of know who Nick Fury is. Then you have Rhodey really trying to keep everything calm, and then characters like Talos, Fury, Sonya, and Gaia are all planning their next moves in this war. And I really like this direction. Seeing the political turmoil of this entire thing, to me, is far more thrilling than seeing Fury hunt down a bunch of Skrulls. It's part of the same reason I loved Andor, is when they were touching on the political fallout of all this stuff. And it really all culminates in one of my favorite moments of MCU writing in recent years, which is a conversation between Fury and Rhodey. Don Cheadle is back as James Rhodes, and now that the Avengers are no more, it puts Rhodey in this really interesting position of knowing all these people and, wanting to be their ally, but at the same time, he's now back working with the American government. He's completely at the mercy of the American government, which puts him at odds with Nick Fury, a guy who used to be his employer, because Fury's out doing his own thing, and he's trying to solve this problem by himself. He even says this is his war, but that's not really what the world wants. The world wants Fury stopped because of his direct involvement in this conflict and the belief that he's really not making it any better. He's the single most wanted man on planet Earth now. And there's this amazing scene between Fury and Rhodey, which is really just them arguing over their respective beliefs and their respective opinions and just kind of the state of the world and the fallout of the snap and all this political stuff that's going on and the existence of Skrulls and how long they've known about the Skrulls. Like, it's all this really cool world building stuff wrapped up in this amazing character-driven scene, and I was on the edge of my seat for most of it. And then you realize, like, halfway through that you are watching two amazing actors just act. There's, like, no CGI in this scene. There's nothing else happening. It's just the two of them in a restaurant having a conversation. And let's talk about Fury. I mentioned last episode that the place they've taken Fury in this series, not everyone's gonna like it. He's older. He's not necessarily on his A game. He's not that badass super spy that we're used to. He's a bit rusty now. This episode dials that up to 11. So if you did not like it in episode 1, you're really not gonna like it in episode 2. It took me out of it for a second. I had to readjust, and it takes getting used to remember that this is not the same Nick Fury we all know, but luckily this episode really sowed the seeds of seeing where he's going to go and getting him back into being that badass super spy we all know and love. And you get this feeling that he is angry, he's ready to hunt, and we're going to get Nick Fury back. One of the big criticisms with a lot of MCU stuff that they've really had ever since the first Avengers movie is, why don't they just call in the Avengers for these conflicts? This episode explains why they can't call in the Avengers, and it gives a couple different explanations as to why they can't call in the Avengers, and it made perfect sense. Like, Fury explained why they're not going to call in the Avengers for this mission. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that, but that's true. Now, while Fury may be a bit rusty, you know who is a badass? Sonya Fallsworth, played by Olivia Colman. She had a few scenes and a few lines in this episode that gave me goosebumps. They were intimidating. And I'm kind of terrified of her, even though she's just a normal person. And every second she was on screen, she just crept higher and higher on the favorite characters list. And I am now a Sonya Fallsworth stan. I am with her in everything she does, good and bad. I love her. The only two things I can really think of that let me down this episode were actually the Skrulls, Talos and Gravik. Now, Talos didn't let me down in the sense of I had issues with what they did with him. I think when they used him masterfully, and he had this great scene with Fury. My issue is that he was the best part of the first episode, and he's really not in this one. He's at the start of it, and then he just leaves, and that made me sad, because I love Talos. I love Ben Mendelsohn in this role. I want to see as much of him as I can. I thought him and Fury were going to be co-leads, but it doesn't really seem like him and Fury are co-leads in the sense that I thought they were. It seems like it's just Fury. But Gravik is my actual criticism of the show, and I'm hoping they resolve this issue. I don't really have a read on this guy. I know they're trying to keep him mysterious, but he also kind of makes no sense. It seems like they're just making him more of a straight-up tyrant instead of the intelligent badass that you would think he is, and his motivations are unclear. He seems to only, or the Skrulls as a whole seem to only really have an issue with Fury, and this is something Gravik himself has addressed. It's something they explain in this episode is what Fury did to make the Skrulls mad, but Gravik hates all of humanity for some reason and basically just wants to take over and like just kill a bunch of people, and I'm not really sure why, because at no point do they ever make it seem like humanity hates the Skrulls or that the Skrulls have any reason to hate humanity. If anything, the humans have welcomed them with open arms because the Skrulls are disguised as humans, so the humans don't know any better, and they're just treating them as normal people, yet we have a guy who's just devoted to killing all of them for no reason. If the Skrulls were public knowledge and humans had an issue with them, that would make sense, but the problem is they're not. It's really only the spies that know what's going on with the Skrulls, so why does Gravik want to kill them all? And I hope they explain later on why he's acting this way and why he's being so pissed, but he literally, in a scene where he talks about how badly he wants to kill all the humans, he mentions, well, Fury wronged us. I'm like, cool, so those things don't equate in any way. But the setups for this episode are top-notch. There are a lot of twists and turns. There's potential questions about who could be a Skrull. You really can't trust anyone, which is exactly what I wanted out of this series. And the ending of this episode, much like the first episode, is an oh shit moment. Not quite the oh shit moment that the first episode was, but the ending definitely opens a door for some really cool potential plot threads and character threads for Nick Fury and a couple other characters involved in the show, and I'll talk about that when we get to the spoiler section of this video. So there you guys go. That is my non-spoiler thoughts on Secret Invasion. Now for the spoilers. So if you have not seen the episode, click off this, watch the episode, come back, watch my spoiler thoughts, because I have a couple things I want to mention. So, okay, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. We're now in spoiler territory of this video. Please leave. So the opening scene of this was a flashback to the 90s. It was 1995, and then we also saw one in 1997, and they were revolving around Fury and the Skrulls and kind of building this spy network with the Skrulls. And Fury meets a young Gravik, and you can tell already that Gravik's not really vibing with what Fury's selling, and he's just going along with it because that's what the other Skrulls are doing. And it's where we see that Talos says he trusts Fury, and Fury says that as long as the Skrulls help him and Carol Danvers will find a new home. So we get the context for what Talos was mentioning. It did set up this thing, though, of them also hating Talos. I hope they really expand on that, because these first 2 episodes have not shown us much of the Skrulls hating Talos, but Talos is the one who told them it's okay to trust Fury. And they clearly put their faith in the wrong person, because Fury didn't follow through on that. So potential conflict there, more of it. Also, the CGI on young Fury looked just as great as it did in Captain Marvel. Although I can tell the way they shot it a bit wider. They weren't as close up, like they were, because they had the TV budget. They were more so trying to hide some of the CGI. I saw that there. And speaking of Gravik, he's clearly trying to become a super Skrull. He had a few different DNA things that Gaia was looking at when she was kind of researching him and what he's doing, and there was a Groot there. I guess he's trying to get the powers of a Groot. And then we saw that ice giant from Jotunheim. Not a frost giant, but like that giant weird looking rhino weird thing that Thor flew through in the first movie. There was one of those. There was an extremis guy, and I cannot remember the fourth one. But I'm like, yeah, so Gravik clearly going to become a Super Skrull in some capacity. Super Skrull's usually a Fantastic Four villain, has the Fantastic Four's powers, but they're doing it this way. I'm fine with that. MCU does not have to follow the comics to a T. If this is set up for the major Super Skrull that we know as the Fantastic Four villain, though, I'd be okay with that too. Either way, I don't care, just so it works for the story they're trying to tell. I don't have much this time. I'm glancing over my notes. I only have a few different points to talk about, so this isn't going to be a really long spoiler section. But Talos and Fury's argument, I thought, was so well written. The way both of these people were making very good points. You couldn't pick a side. I did hate, though, when Fury was like, Talos, this is your stop, and basically kicked him off. I'm like, Talos has done so much for Fury. He's done everything Fury's asked. He's been helping Fury. He's extracted Fury from all these bad situations, and Fury just basically gets rid of him. That was a dick move. I hope someone mentions that. I did not really like Fury for doing that. It's in character, but I didn't like it. Fury does not handle criticism well. He usually just gets mad at the people who tell him he did something wrong. And Fury's argument, though, because Talos' argument is like, what was I supposed to, let them die or bring all my people here? I made the right call. I just want to coexist. And that made sense. Then Fury turns it on his head and says humans can't even coexist with themselves, much less another species. And I'm like, both of these people are making great points, and I love both of these characters. But they didn't resolve it. There's a lot of drama there between both characters, which is something I wanted to see. I'm glad we're seeing it, but it makes me sad. And then that brings us to Fury and Rhodey's chat, which, if I could just play the scene, I would, because it was a really good talk about their respective positions and Rhodey being in this position of power. And I loved it so much. It was cool. And we get a hint of Fury still having that badass nature there. And that's the setup of getting back to the badass Fury, when Rhodey basically fires him and says, you're out. And Fury says, I'm Nick Fury. Even when I'm out, I'm in. I'm like, hell yeah. I cannot wait till we get the black leather jacket back, bald head, eye patch, all like shaved down to the normal facial hair he has. I am so excited for that episode. I cannot wait for it. Rhodey's also known about the Skrulls for, I believe he said 15 years, so shortly after Iron Man would have come out. We're 2025 in the MCU, so 2010, so a couple of years after the first Iron Man happened, chronologically and release-wise. So he's known for a while, so it's really interesting stuff all around. But right now, the big standing theory is that Rhodey himself might actually be a Skrull, which almost seems obvious to the point that that's not how it's going to go, but also bringing an Avenger in like that in a major supporting role does seem like an easy way to just have someone be a Skrull. I've still said the President I 100% believe is a Skrull, but yes, Rhodey could be one. He was acting a bit different, not too different. Like, he was still acting like Rhodey, but he seemed a bit different. If you've seen the episode, which I hope you have because you're watching this, you would know what I mean. And then the ending of the episode, speaking of Skrulls, was gnarly. So Fury gets to a house. There's a Skrull there cooking something. Walks in. Skrull's a human. And then that's supposed to be Fury's wife. So it's like, oh my god, Fury married a Skrull. But the question is, did Fury know he married a Skrull? Or did Fury think he married a human that just so happens to be a Skrull? I hope it's that Fury knowingly married a Skrull. I think that would be a great place to take him. Like, I just want to keep seeing this. I just want a whole episode that revolves around Nick Fury's marriage. Like, I wouldn't care if we got that. That's all I want to see. But that's all I had to talk about for this episode. I told you not much in the way of spoilers this week. Maybe next week there'll be more. I don't know. But another solid episode for this show, besides that stupid opening. But yeah, another solid episode for the show. We have 4 more of these guys. Let's hope they can keep up the momentum and not fall victim to the 6-episode format. So what do you guys think of episode 2 of Secret Invasion? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, leave a like on this video, subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's going to be it. Have a great day, guys.